today. So I'm Lucas. I'm Lucas Wachinskas. I'm from the financial side of Arthur, and I'll be taking you through the Arthur's Live bank feed today. I'm going to be going over some general basics of the bank feed and how we use it. So I'm a business and finance associate here, and my email will be here for any further questions or queries about this session. So yeah, let's start off with the training. So what we'll be recapping today will be general reconciliations, overpayments, underpayments, processing refunds with the bank feed, doing internal bank transfers. So for example, if you would have a management fee in the client account and you would want to transfer this to the business account, we would use internal bank transfers with the bank feed. We've also got adjustments. So adjustments is a feature on the bank feed which allows you to balance off a transaction which might just be a little bit out. So for example, you could have a rent charge of £500 and the tenant would have sent over £501 for like a foreign exchange or something like that, and the adjustments will create a charge for the tenant, allowing you to reconcile the invoice. So let's just step into general reconciliations. What is a general reconciliation? So essentially, when you create an invoice in Arthur, you can head over to the reconciliation page and reconcile that against a spent or received item. And this will create a receipt in the tenancy, which will balance off the tenancy's invoices. One second here, I'm just trying to figure out. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. We are also recording the session, by the way, so everyone in the session will receive the recording. So once a transaction is reconciled, they can be found within the financials dashboard or within the tenancy in the tenant rent statement. So if I just go into here, whenever something is reconciled, you can go straight to financials, straight into tenant invoices, and it will appear here for you to see and view. I'm just going to take you through a simple reconciliation. So for example, if we head over to financials, this is how we get to the bank reconciliation page. Financials, bank accounts, and start reconciliation. So a general reconciliation could be, so for example, we've received £1,000 here. This could be a rental amount. All you'd have to do to match this is search for the transaction, find the relevant invoice from Arthur. So for example, we can see that Ross Geller had paid £1,000, or sorry, the charge is £1,000. And what we can do here is click this and click into the tenancy so we can see the receipt when it comes over. Right, so okay, so if we click this box, we can reconcile this amount to the received amount and match. So this will match the rental amount, the invoice, and create a receipt on the tenant side. So if we refresh the page, we should see a tenancy receipt for Ross Geller, and this would have balanced off the charge here, which balances off the tenancy. So if we go back to the PowerPoint, so this PowerPoint will be sent out to everyone, just as like a recap and a point of reference. So if we head over to overpayments here, so in the bank feed, we can actually we can process overpayments by adding a transaction whilst we're at the reconciliation stage. So what is an overpayment? You know, an overpayment is created when an invoice from Arthur doesn't completely equal the amount on your bank line. So for example, if the rental charge was £500 and sorry, there's a lot of background noise right now, just bear with me. So if you have an Arthur invoice of say £450 and the tenant has sent over £1,000, we can create an overpayment of £550 to balance this and reconcile this. That's how we account for overpayments with the bank feed. Sorry about the hearing, people. So what essentially will happen, I'll just demonstrate this in the demonstration here. So if I have a invoice of £500, right, and I head over to the reconciliation page, and I see that a tenant has given me £550, what I can do is I can search transaction, I can get the relevant rental amount, so I'll use the November charge here and paste this here. So this will be the £500 invoice. As we can see, it's £50 out to reconcile as the tenant has paid £50 more. So this will be an overpayment. So what we would do is add a transaction from this screen here. And this will be related to the tenancy. So my tenancy, we'll just get the tenancy code here. And this will populate there. The transaction type would be whichever charge you use. So for example, if you're a property manager, you would use rent charge in this scenario. If you are a self-managing landlord or use direct rent, you would populate with direct rent here. And the description would be an overpayment. It would be paid to by the tenant here. So the due date, whenever you would like the due date, for ease, we'll just use November the 1st. It's £50 overpaid. So this will create a charge within the tenancy. So an outstanding amount that the tenant will have to, this will create, a credit note in the tenancy, which the £50 can be allocated to in the future rent. So if we, I'm not sure what just happened there. Right, let me just recreate everything. I think I just clicked off it accidentally. Here we go. Add. There we go. So now it's added a new charge. This should appear in the tenancy after I've reconciled it as a credit note, which can be applied to future rents. So if I send this, now it will allow me to match the overpayment. So if we go ahead and match, this will have gone through. If we head over to the tenancy, so yeah, as we can see, this has been balanced off. There has been a receipt, which has also been balanced off, and a £50 credit note, which can be allocated to any future rent right there. So that would be the gist of overpayments. So what happens after I've created and matched an overpayment? So once matched, the overpayment will be located within the financials dashboard under tenant invoices, or it can be found within the tenancy as you've just seen. So any reconciliation you can always find in the tenant invoices generally within this screen. I'll just quickly show here. So we just got here through this button here. And this will show you generally across all tenancies, the reconciliations and what would be outstanding. But specifically, exactly where you reconcile the rent, the receipt should come within the tenant rent statement of the tenancy. So this would be overpayments. Now, underpayments. So the way we deal with these. So, for example, again, if an invoice is £450 you've sent to the client, and they've only given you £250, you'd obviously want to reconcile this as a part payment. So after you've matched an underpayment, it would have made another invoice for the difference of the amount matched. And again, yeah, this invoice will be allocated to future bank lines. So if I just demonstrate this for you here. So again, if we just head over to number 2. Right, here we go. Okay, so underpayments, we received £450. Again, we've got an invoice for £500. This is an underpaid invoice. So if we search transaction here and we get this one here. So actually, if we choose the October one by selecting the TR number, this is the best way to not cause any errors, because it's exactly the code for the transaction. If we search here, okay, here we are. So this is the £500 invoice from the tenancy. If we select that, but here we actually populate exactly how much was given to us. So if we say 450 here, that will essentially tell Arthur that they've only paid £450 of the £500 invoice, and this will create an additional charge of £50. So once I match this, essentially Arthur will create another invoice of £50, which is still outstanding on the tenancy. And that would obviously have to be matched against the tenant, which would pay £50 more for rent the next month. So if I match that there, this will go over to the tenancy here. So, yep, so £450 received, tenancy receipt, and the charge here it is. So yeah, so this is the charge. This is the overpayment of £50 that will now be outstanding for the tenant, and they would have to pay that through the next month's charge with an additional £50. And that's how we process part payments within the bank feed. So what would be next here? So processing refunds. Okay, so the bank feed also allows you to process refunds. So let's look into this. So for example, a tenant has overpaid for a service or an invoice which shouldn't be contributed to future rents. Once you create a tenant refund, you will allocate it to a credit note such as a tenancy receipt, and I'll show this in my tenancy. And after you've allocated it, you can find the corresponding item on the bank feed and click match, and that will sort out the tenancy refund. And I'll just demonstrate this here. So I've already created a tenancy refund here and a tenancy receipt. I'll just quickly go through how I've just done that. So this is the tenancy refund. If you go to add transaction here and populate all the way at the bottom, it will have tenancy refund, the description, tenancy, or just refund. The bank account, so this would be normally the client account, so where the rents are processed. So in this case, it would be BNY. This would be paid by the tenant. And all I did to create this charge down here, or this refund, sorry, was populate £250 there and click save transaction. That would have created this transaction here. And once this is created, so this is the refund issued. So now we'd create a tenancy receipt as the overpayment, which we're trying to refund. So this would be £250, and I just did this by adding transaction again, going to tenancy receipt all the way at the bottom again, populating it as overpayment, again in the BNY client account, and £250, which is the receipt given to the tenant. Right. So once this is done, what we would do is we'd allocate the tenancy refund, allocate to transaction, and we'd allocate it to the tenancy receipt here by populating £250. Click allocate. And now these are allocated. You will see an outstanding amount on both as 0. So now once this is done, the Afterlife bank feed will allow you to reconcile this amount. So if we just head over to our bank feed, so for example, this remittance here will just be saying we've spent out this bank line of £250 spent, would just symbolize that we're refunding the tenant, and we'd match that to spent. Why is it not working? Right, search transaction. Here we go. Sorry. Yeah. So search transaction. It will be a spent line, and you should see tenancy refund here. To match, you would just tick the box, select, and that's how we would process a refund with the Afterlife bank feed. Match that over and refresh this page. So yeah, so these are now allocated, they're balanced, and they're also reconciled on the Afterlife bank feed, and that would be processing a tenancy refund. Okay, so what's next on the list? So we've got internal bank transfers. So another feature of the Afterlife bank feed is moving funds from one bank account to another. This could be for various different reasons. The most common of which is moving management fees from the client account to your business account as you're recognizing this as income. So the way we would do this on the Afterlife bank feed is if we just head over to here, and as you see, so I've already created an internal bank transfer, but essentially when you send over money to another bank account, you will get a bank line which is spent here from the client account. And what we'll do, so for example, if I just show you what is happening here, if I go to financials, bank accounts, so my goal is to move money from this account to this account. This would be my business account, this would be my client account. If we head over back to the reconciliation page, this would be the internal bank transfer of £600, and we'd select internal transfer right here and select the bank account. And once this has happened, we just click match. You can add a description saying, this is a transfer of management fees or just an internal transfer in general. For this, we'll just leave it blank and we click match. And now here on the HSBC account, if I just load this again. So once you head over to the bank account here, just click start reconciliation, and you'll be able to see the internal bank transfer of £600 being received, and you can reconcile that against the internal transfer that you've just done of £600 from this account here. And you can match this, and that will essentially take care of that internal bank transfer. So that was quite a simple one there. Last but not least, adjustments. So the the Afterlife bank feed accounts for adjustments. So this is rarely used, but more commonly used for international clients and tenants. Essentially, when a client has paid a few pounds extra or a few pounds less, what we do have is a feature which can actually balance off or allow you to reconcile the transaction by creating a small charge. Like I'll just show here. So if we have, for example, foreign rent and it's come over in GBP as £1.25 more, yet if we search for a transaction again and we use the September one here of £500. Yeah, so if we search that there of the invoice and we select, so as we can see, it's £1.25 out, and that was because of a currency conversion or some sort of miscellaneous amount, and it's not allowing you to reconcile. The way we would account for this is by clicking the adjustment button here and populating the description of why this is being adjusted. Usually people choose miscellaneous income or bank fees, for example. So this would be exactly that. It would be bank fees. So if the selected transactions match the bank line, you can enter the difference as an adjustment here. And this will essentially create a charge on the tenancy for £1.25 outstanding. And that would actually have to be paid to you through future rents as an overpayment. And that, so the £1.25 will create the invoice for the future amount, and that can be reconciled with an overpayment of rent that they send the next month. So if I match that over, that will allow you to match. If I refresh here. So yeah, this has been reconciled, and the bank fees expense that will be paid off next month by the tenant of £1.50. So what would be it? So question and answers. I hope you found this session informative. If you have any questions, please send them to me now via the chat box, just here. And I will show you my email for any further questions after the session. And hopefully this has went well. So let's see if anyone wants to say anything. Up to the 1.25 on the statement. So the £1.25, so that would be bank fees. So this should, so it should come up. So it would be, so it wouldn't come up like this, but once the tenant would pay the £1.50 on top of the monthly charge for the next month, you can actually add that in as the transaction, and that would pay itself off, and it should show here on the next month's receipt on the bank line. So for example, if the tenant would pay the £500 next month with £1.50, that would, once reconciled, that would appear on the tenant statement. Yep. Any other questions by anyone? So if, oh, sorry, Fiona, I didn't see the question. So if you make an adjustment, say £1, does it auto add this to the next month's rent if next month is set as a recurring charge? So essentially, if we go head over here, bear with me here. So bear with me 1 second. Okay, yep. So the £1.25 would appear on the cash book. This would be here. As you can see, it would be £1.25 reconciled, and this would be here as a record, and the tenant would be aware of it, and then they would pay the £1.25 as for next month. Sorry about the delay there. Would there be anything else, everyone? So, yep, so the recording of the session will be emailed to everyone, and will be live for everyone to see. I will also send everyone articles based on each of the topics covered today. So all the general topics. If you still couldn't comprehend what was happening, I will send all the articles out, which details them in text. And this should conclude today's session. If we have no more questions. So yeah, so please, anyone with a question, I'm happy to answer whilst I'm on the call. I'll just wait for 5 minutes just to see if anyone wants to ask anything, and then I will send the recordings out to everybody for today. This is my email. You can ask me any questions through here, and I will promptly respond. Okay. Okay, it seems that there's no questions coming through. I'll just wait a couple more minutes to see if anyone wants to ask any questions about the Afterlife bank feed. I'm happy to answer right now. Otherwise, you'd have to email me the question. But other than that, yeah, so we are concluding, people. Okay, well, everybody, I will be ending the session now. If you have any other questions for me, please email me on the contact email here. Everyone will be emailed for today's session. And yeah, that'll be it. Thanks everyone for joining. I will see you soon.